Hello everyone, my name is Angel Ledesma, and today we're going to be talking about fighting behaviors within the animal kingdom, but more in specific, we're going to be talking about head fighting behaviors. In this presentation, I'll be discussing three important topics from the topic guide, which are describing the stimulus on my animal and what it responds to that stimulus. We'll also be talking about, we'll also be explaining learning in our behavior. We will also be choosing an innate behavior. We're going to explain what it is and describe how the neural pathway leads to the behavior that we see. I will be mainly focusing on three specific species of animals such as giraffes, tortoises, and lastly, the great horned owls. The reason for these three specific animals is because these animals all reside in different continents of the world that all share the same style of fighting, which is using their heads mainly. We're going to get started on giraffes. Some people are already familiar with giraffes and their extravagant way of fighting. Most giraffes usually reside in East Africa. The way these animals fight is by actually just using their necks and their heads to fight. These animals then also use their ossicones, which are the horns that usually stick out of their head to stab their opponents if they need to. According to Learn 2021, it is actually really rare when these animals actually do fight, and when they do, they know to make the fight fair, and it is even seen for the giraffes to make friends with each other after the fight. So I wanted to go ahead and show you a quick video of how these animals do end up fighting with each other. And as you can see here that the giraffes do gain some momentum, and then they go ahead and attack their opponents however they need to. Some people do end up finding this a little bit silly, but definitely a lot more serious on their side. As mentioned before, these animals are not always looking to fight, and according to Grand Wheeler, they don't pick on the weak either. They are very self-isolated animals. I'm going to be discussing the three different topics throughout each slide, and they're going to be labeled as 1, 2, and 3 as how they were earlier. So for number 1, the stimuli that might include other male giraffes posing a threat or even asserting dominance for mating rights. Number 2, giraffes will learn this behavior through others while growing up to defend themselves. An innate behavior that I chose for this was fight or flight. A perfect example for this would be defense or to impress a mate. This usually goes through the sympathetic nervous system, which is known for activating the fight or flight. But I also wanted to go ahead and move on to the next animal that we're going to be discussing today. That is the tortoise. These animals can be found anywhere in deserts, forests, or grasslands. These animals are also known for fighting with their head. There are a lot of viral videos around the web where lots of tortoises and even turtles, they tend to fight with their head by butting heads with each other. They usually thrust their whole entire bodies to their opponent and even sometimes bite. Here's another quick video that I wanted to show you of a tortoise which is looking actually at their own reflection. I know that is something that with a lot of aquatic animals, even sometimes with reptiles as we see here, whenever they see the reflection they do end up finding that as a threat, or they do end up perceiving that as an opponent. And right here we're going to go ahead and see how defensive this tortoise does get with its own reflection. As you can see with the video, it is very similar to giraffes and how they gain momentum and they thrust their entire bodies in order to have that powerful attack. Um, in terms of fighting, like I said earlier, they are very similar to giraffes. They are very limited to what they can do with their bodies. However, they still need to find a way to present themselves as dominant. Tortoises are also known for being very territorial animals. The stimuli with these tortoises might include hunger, new environments, and even urges to mate, according to tie-dye iguana. Turtles might also learn and obtain this aggression from losing dominance from other tortoises from the past. For example, if they needed to fight for food, they might have lost in the past and they needed to go ahead and regain that strength to be able to fight again in the future to win for the food. An innate behavior that I chose for this was hunger, and that's just because of what I mentioned. I know with tortoises, they don't really seem like the type of species of animal to go ahead and just attack another different type of tortoise. But the hypothalamus is also very known for triggering hunger, and the more powerful the hunger is, it's going to definitely be followed with some aggression. Lastly, I also wanted to discuss a species of animal that I personally found very interesting. These are called the great horned owls. These animals typically reside in the North Americas. The reason as to why I find them so interesting is because a lot of other bird species you see around tend to use a lot of different body parts to help them out with fights, but with these owls, they are only focused with the face and the head of their opponent. Just like the tortoise and the giraffe, they also headbutt and bite, and occasionally they will wrestle. And in this video, I have an example of what it looks like when these two animals fight each other. As you can see in the video, they do end up pushing each other onto the floor, but mainly the one on top just tackles the one on the bottom, keeping them secure on the floor, and they use their head to attack. So, it is known that owls are honestly very dangerous predators in the animal kingdom, so fighting will be something that is very important and common in their own species, especially in terms of fighting over prey. So just very similar to giraffes and tortoises, they have the same fighting technique. Stimuli, like I mentioned earlier, might include some intruders, like you might have found in that video that I showed you before. It could be hunger, or it could even be prey, according to BirdFact. This behavior might be learned from other owls while growing up and experiencing fails from prey, getting away from them. So very similar to tortoises. An innate behavior that I chose for this was hunting. Just because they're predators, the amygdala is usually responsible for this urge to hunt, and it's also responsible for that fear response, which is going to probably activate that urge to hunt in terms of soothing their hunger. But to wrap it all up, I wrote down all the works cited here, and I just wanted to thank you for watching this presentation. I really hope that this was helpful to understand the reasons as to why these animals fight almost very similarly.